Welcome to Your Yes Filled Life. I'm Brenda Winkle, energetic leadership guide, psychic medium, and somatic coach for ambitious leaders who know their gifts are real and who want to stand fully in them. Here, you'll learn how to trust your intuition, embody your vision, and step into the freedom you've been craving, all without chasing more certifications or carrying stuff that does not belong to you. Every week, I'll share powerful practices and conversations with thought leaders and changemakers that help you transform your vision into embodied confidence, claim your gifts without apology, and lead with both clarity and freedom. Because your gifts aren't cute, they're powerful, they're real, and they're needed. Start today by downloading my free energy audit at brendawinkle.com/audit. It's the exact tool I use to track what's fueling me and what's draining me. It will help you discern between that hit of achievement and true joy so that you can lead with more clarity and impact. This is your space to stop proving, start embodying, and live fully in your gifts. Welcome to Your Yes Filled Life. Hello, and welcome to Your Yes Filled Life. I'm here to help heart-led entrepreneurs create clarity and confidence so that they can increase their income and impact through the offers that you make, through the programs that you host, through the changes that you are making in the world. And I am so glad you're here. Thank you for being here. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much for coming back. If you feel called to leave the podcast your rating and review, it is one of the most helpful things you can do for the podcast. It helps it grow. It helps it get into the ears of other listeners. And I would be so grateful if you could take a couple of minutes right now and leave your rating and review wherever you're listening. So I'm an energetic leadership guide, a psychic medium, somatic coach, breathwork facilitator, and leadership expert for ambitious, emotionally intelligent leaders and entrepreneurs who are ready to trust their wisdom, reclaim their energy, and lead with ease. So we're heading into fall, the season of release. You can feel it, right? There's this slowing down happening all around us, this invitation to let go. And I love how nature mirrors what our bodies are asking us for, to stop holding everything, to start trusting the process. There's this little bit of anxiety that comes up in my system every year as I watch the leaves begin to turn colors. And while I love it and I think it's extraordinarily beautiful, there's something in me that happens that's a little bit like, ooh, what's it going to be like when the leaves fall? Will it be bare? And one of my favorite things about living in the Portland, Oregon area is that even as the leaves fall, there's so much moss in the trees and on the trunks and the branches that when the rainy season comes, which is, fall and winter, the moss in the trees turns this really vibrant, almost violent green. And so it's never not green in the Portland area in Oregon. And that really reminds me that we're always taken care of. We're always provided for, even if things outside look a little bit scary. Which brings us to our topic today, which is it intellect, intuition, or fear? Sometimes we can tell ourselves that something is our intellect, and we might even say it's intuition, when it might actually be fear running the show. The reason is fear is fast, it's convincing, and it comes with this kind of certainty. Like, let me give you an example. When I went traveling full time, 5 months of last year, when I listened to my intuition was soft, it was calm, but it was really an invitation to trust that I would always be supported, I would be provided for, and I was throughout the whole time I was traveling. My fear voice sometimes said, "You're going to end up living in your car." Now, that did not happen, and it wouldn't have happened, but I'm just showing you this and telling you this to illustrate our fear voices seem like they might make sense, even if they're very dramatic, like my fear voice was. But most often, our fear voice is just that. Now, intuition comes in a little bit differently. It comes in very steady, but it's often a whisper. It's soft, it's gentle. So I'm going to talk to you about a few different maps that you can use to discern, is this intuition, is this intellect, or is this fear, throughout the episode today. And I want to show you a couple of examples, real life examples from me and from my clients, just to help tell the story, because I think that when we use examples and we add really specific stories, it helps to understand the concepts just a little bit better. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is an intuition map that talks about how you can activate your intuition. So there are multiple maps that we can use when it comes to intuition. Maybe you've heard of the six clairs. That is the five senses plus knowing. So that would be clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairgustance, that's the taste, clairaudient, clairsentient, and then claircognizant. That's the clair of knowing. So that's a map. We can also talk about the empath tracks. And we know that there's different types of empathy. There are the animal communicators, there's the plant communicators, the land communicators, the people who are physical empaths that feel the physical body sensations of other people. There's the medical intuitive empaths. There are the emotional empaths. And then we have other types of intuition that come in, like telepathy. Maybe you've heard of the telepathy tapes. If not, it's a great show. Go check it out. Telepathy is one. Dreams, sort of a vision type of thing that happens. Mediumship is a type of one of the other tracks. So all of these are maps. They're not absolutes. And anyone who tells you that there's an absolute way to access your intuition, I would be highly suspect of, because intuition comes in so differently for each of us, because we all have different gifts. Some of us are going to access these gifts when we're working with people. Some of us will access gifts when we're working with numbers or with animals or with movement. And so I'm going to share with you a few different maps today that you can use to really activate your intuition. And then we're going to talk about how to know the difference between a fearful thought that you might be mistaking as intellect and your actual intuition. So let's talk about one of the maps of intuition. And I call this the intuitive knowing map. So in the intuitive knowing map, there are three basic ways that intuition can come in for you. That's structure, perceiving, and movement. In the structured way that intuition can come in, this would be someone who has intuitive hits and intuitive awareness through charts and graphs, spreadsheets, maps, strategies, schedules, forms, agendas, anything with structure. Another way using this intuitive knowing map that intuition can come in is through movement. This might mean physical movement with your whole body, like walking or hiking, dancing. It might be moving your hands, like doing a project, perhaps it's gardening or cooking. It might be that you actually like move your hands or your body, and you notice when you wiggle your fingers, you get intuitive hits. And the physical touch, it might be that if you touch a person or you touch an object, that you'll have an intuitive knowing arrive. So the first two were structure and movement. Now the third one is perceiving. This is a form of intuition that comes in through sensing, through meditation, through your perceptions, feelings, perceiving, knowing, and dreaming. So in this intuitive knowing map, those three basic ways that intuition can come in are through structure, movement, and perceiving. My guess is, as I was going through that list, you were saying to yourself, ooh, that's me. I get my intuition when I, and then you probably filled in the blank. So this is just one map of intuition. And for many of us, we'll have one predominant way that it comes in and one secondary way that it comes in. And maybe you have access to all three ways. And let me tell you more about that. So if you have a couple of overlapping um, ways that intuition can come in, maybe that's like a walking meditation. Perhaps you get a little bit of the perception and a little bit of the movement. And then when you go on long walks, you'll notice that if you do an intentional walking meditation, that you have intuitive access. Or maybe you access all three through writing. You can access the structure, the movement, and the perceiving through writing. That's very common. So again, there's not absolutes here because intuition is so unique to all of us. But in this intuitive knowing map that I'm talking about today, those three things were structure, movement, and perceiving. And I know that I'm repeating this a lot, but I want to make sure that you understand, just for today, kind of what we're talking about, okay? This is important because as we start to try to unpack, is it intuition or is it fear? We want to understand some of the ways intuition can come in. So if you've noticed that you have been doing the same thing for a very long time, and then you start to feel tension in your body or a feeling like heaviness or constriction or tightness, that is actually your intuition coming in to say, something's up. So let me tell you a little story. Last month ago, last month ago, anyway, you get what I mean. Last month, I almost said yes to a collaboration. It looked absolutely perfect on paper. The person was lovely. The idea was aligned. Our missions were very similar. And I felt so much like I should say yes. Everything looked right on paper. It checked every single box that I thought it should check. But as I was on the call, I noticed that my fists were clenching into my hands, and I noticed that there was tension all the way up my arms into my shoulders. And I was noticing that I had like some constriction in my belly where it just felt like there was tightness. And my mind was saying, this is a great collaboration. You should definitely do this. It checks all of the boxes. And yet my body had this tightness, this clenching, this gripping. And so I know myself enough to know that when I feel that tightness, that gripping, something's going on. And I know myself well enough to know that when something's going on, the best thing I can do is to pause and take some space. And when I do that, then I can access one of the ways my intuition comes in, whether it's structure, movement, or perceiving. And for me, most of the time, it's going to be a combination of two or three things. And one of my favorite ways to access intuition is either to create something, whether it's like photography or music or writing. And so I'll do those things, or I will take a walk, and I will take a walk in silence where I'm not consuming music, I'm not consuming a podcast. I'll just walk with my thoughts. And that's what I did in this case. And as I was on my walk, I realized the reason my body was clenching was not because the person was misaligned and not because the mission was misaligned. It was because I would need to promote this collaboration at the same time I was promoting one of my own products. And it would mean that I was promoting this collaborators program, which is very similar to mine. At the same time, I would be promoting mine, which means that's not actually aligned. I am in business to make money. It's how I put food on the table. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm saying that to you as a heart-led entrepreneur in case you've ever wondered, like, why do I want to make consistent income? Why can't I make consistent income? And you maybe have even felt like it was almost like a dirty word that you even thought or said that. I want to double down on this. You need to make consistent income as a heart-led entrepreneur. because we want you to continue to create the changes that you're making through your business. So if you're not creating consistent income through your business, we want to look at that. We want to find out, is it that the offer is misaligned? Is it that you are talking to a client that isn't your right fit client? Is it that you have blocks around receiving? Or maybe it's that you're trying to sell one-off sessions and you're not creating any kind of sustainable income for yourself. So anyway, that's part of another podcast episode. But the point is, it's not a bad thing for you to want to make money. You are in business. You have a business. And if you're not making if you're not making money in your business, then there's something off, right? So as I was unpacking whether or not I was going to work with this collaborator and realizing that I was going to need to promote her program at the same time I was promoting mine, and realizing, oh, that's actually a conflict of interest that would cause me to lose income. That's not an income generating collaboration. It's just a visibility collaboration, but at what cost? A pretty steep cost if it means that it would fail one of my own launches. And if I wouldn't have paused, if I wouldn't have tuned into what my body was saying, I may have decided that I was going to be a part of this collaborative project, and it might have cost me a lot of time, bandwidth, and money. So that pause, that space to allow your intuition to come in, it's everything. And if I would have listened to the fear voice that was saying, oh, it checks every box, you're missing out. Oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity for visibility. If I would have listened to that, I would have really set myself up in a not good way. So let's talk about the real reason that it's difficult to tell if it's fear or intuition. Okay. Now, before we dive in, here's something I want you to know. Most heart-led leaders who are feeling a little bit stuck or having a hard time telling the difference between intellect, intuition, and fear aren't indecisive. It's not that you don't know, it's that you're overloaded. And when your nervous system is overloaded, it's over capacity, it's in an activated stress response, it's very difficult for you to hear your intuition because the voice of the nervous system and the fear is so much louder. Now, I don't want you to think that there's anything wrong with you if you have this. I mean, you have a nervous system, and the nervous system's sole purpose is to keep you alive. Your nervous system is actually doing its job, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. And we want to help the nervous system know that there's not actually a threat by managing your stress. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I recorded a podcast episode on stress, on how it's really showing up for you. If you haven't listened to that, invitation to go back and give it a listen, because I talk about all of the ways fight, flight, freeze, and fawn show up for you as a heart-led leader. So when your nervous system is in the stress response and it's filled with pressure and expectations and things that maybe you haven't even talked about, it becomes really difficult to tell the difference between intellect and intuition. And here's why. It's not a mindset set issue. It's not even an ability to hear intuition issue. It's that your nervous system is sending a signal to your brain that you're not safe. And your nervous system is sending this signal in a way that makes it feel literally life-threatening for you to do the thing. And when that signal is being sent, you will not be able to override it with just mindset. It's impossible to override a nervous system response with positive thinking. It won't happen. So when that nervous system is full and in a stress response, fear can masquerade as logic. In fact, it often does. Fear will tell you, well, it makes sense to XYZ. You should probably go do this thing. You probably feel and think you're being very rational. But really, that nervous system is trying to protect you from visibility, from the vulnerability that comes with putting yourself out there in any kind of capacity. And it's probably trying to protect you from change. Because The nervous system, especially if you're in a stress response, is viewing any potential change as a threat. So, back in the days when we were living in villages and we didn't have access to social media, we didn't have access to electricity or running water, if there was a change, it really might signal a threat. It might signal a threat in terms of changing weather. We would need to maybe batten down the hatches if there was a big storm coming, or we might need to prepare food if it was a winter storm coming, or we might need to go inside if there was an exterior threat like a bear or something. And so our nervous systems are hardwired to search for changes and to view change as a threat. So when you're building a business and your nervous system is in a stress response, your nervous system is viewing any potential change as a threat, and it will come in and it will sabotage what's happening. So if you found yourself thinking or saying things like, well, this really makes sense, but it doesn't feel quite right, that's actually your intuition trying to come through. And so if you've also said a version of this, which might sound like, I want to do it, but I'm scared it's the wrong move. I'm scared it's a mistake. Or maybe this, I've built the thing. I've built the book outline. I've built the business plan. I've built the course, but I haven't shared it yet. I just want to assure you, you are not behind. You're not too late. You're not doing it wrong. We just want to help your nervous system settle down just a little bit so that you can discern between that intellect and that fear voice, which are not the same thing, by the way. Your intellect is valuable. And fear is valuable too. Let's be clear. Fear keeps you alive, but not in this case. Fear does not keep you alive when you are trying to build something of impact, of importance, to create the income that will maybe mean freedom for your family, more travel for your family, more money to donate to causes that you really care about. So let me tell you a little story. A few weeks ago, I was invited to speak on a panel with amazing women, and it was a panel on divination. That's like mediumship and channeling and psychic downloads and tarot cards and oracle cards. And when I initially was asked to serve on the panel, I felt myself a little bit of fear. And I knew it was fear because for me, fear makes my body feel like it wants to collapse in. I noticed my shoulders rolling in. I noticed that my belly gets a little bit hard and it feels harder to take a breath. And so I just let myself feel those things. And then I asked myself, is this fear or is this truth? And the answer was, oh, it's fear. My fear was really loud. It was so loud, it drowned out my intuition, which is ironic because this was a panel on intuition, right? So I allowed myself to take some deep, slow breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. I went for a walk. And then I realized as I was walking, again, coming back to this map of the intuitive knowing, the structure, movement, and perceiving, I combined the movement and perceiving into a meditative walk. And then I realized, oh, the thing I'm really scared of is admitting I do this work. It's not that the panel is wrong. It's just that this is a new visibility edge for me. So when I was able to tap down the fear enough to allow the intuition to come forward, I realized what was really happening. And then I could exhale. Then I could work through anything I needed to work through in order to show up on that panel. This is exactly what I teach inside the upcoming Clarity workshop. And I'll talk more about that soon. So one of the most simple, powerful tools I teach, I just call it the Clarity Reset because it helps you cut through this swirl. It helps you know what's fear, what's intuition. And before I even share this reset with you, I want to tell you that very often fear is going to be fast moving. There's going to be kind of a certainty, like certain doom. It's all going to fall apart. I'm going to be living in my car, right? That kind of thing. It's very dramatic. It's very small. Like fear is, and I don't mean that your fear is small. I mean, it's very small thinking. So when you notice that fast moving kind of energy, this is a great opportunity to apply the clarity reset. Now, if you want a free guide, I created a clarity guide especially for you, the heart-led entrepreneurs, and you can access it at brendawinkle.com/clarity guide. But let's talk about a little bit of the clarity reset, which is also included in the clarity guide, although there's more to it than that. But this clarity reset is just really simple. It's really simple. So this 5-minute clarity check-in is really simple. Just straighten your spine, whether that's sitting or standing. Close your eyes if you can, because it will really help to close down that visual field. Take in 3 slow, deep breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth, and then ask out loud or in your journal, if you're writing, what is my goal or priority right now? What is my goal or priority right now? And then what decision would support that? So you want to get clear. What is my goal or priority right now? What decision would support that? And then the third question you'll ask yourself is, what am I pretending not to know? And then spend a few minutes reflecting. You can either open a voice app on your phone and just like process out loud if you're a verbal processor, or if you like to journal, you can journal about these 3 questions. And just in case you missed them, here are the 3 questions again. What is my goal or priority right now? What decision would support that? And what am I pretending not to know? Then as you're writing and you're noticing, pay attention to what feels good, exciting, and expansive. What would make it feel so easy? And then imagine each option that you're considering and notice where your body relaxes or expands or where your body tightens in response to every single option. You can anchor your clarity in by finishing the sentence. What I really want right now is, or what I really want to feel guided to do right now is, and then just allow yourself to reflect on that, either out loud, verbally processing in your voice notes app, or in a journal. And then coming back to where we started, your intuitive knowing framework, you will know what's going to give you your intuitive access. Is it structure? Is it movement? Is it perceiving? Only you will know. And it will be different for you than it will be for everyone else. And the thing I want you to really understand, if you don't take anything else away from this episode, I want you to understand this. Your body knows. Your body knows the answer. Expansive decisions, expansive choices might feel like lightness or ease or energizing. You might feel a sense of vitality. When you notice tightness or a feeling of dread or spinning or spiraling or swirling or maybe even shut down, that is almost always fear. It's not intuition and it's not even intellect. It's fear. So let me tell you a client story. I have this client who owns a very successful business. It's a very large business as far as how many people she serves, but it's a very lean business in terms of the size of her team. Her team is 1 full-time person that works with her, and then she's got some contractors that also work with her. And she has this very successful business. She runs a group program. She was also running a small group VIP program. And then in addition to that VIP program, she was having some one-on-one clients. And as we were doing our work together, she kept coming back to this idea that it did not feel aligned for her to be offering the one-on-ones or the small group. And yet she was saying it's a significant part of my income. And she was really wrestling with what she should do. Should she end the one-on-one offer? Should she end the small group and only focus on the larger group? And she could go back and forth all day long on the pro and con list of doing either thing. When we tapped into the body and we used the clarity reset, it was almost an instant knowing for her of what her intuition was telling her. And when I'm working with clients, I'm very cautious to not tell you what I think. I want you to get clear on what you think, what you believe, what you feel, what your intuition is telling you. And in this case, my client's intuition was telling her that she needed to do what Marie Forleo calls simplify to amplify. And by the time we ended our session, she had decided that she was going to discontinue the small group program and discontinue her one-on-one offer and focus only on the group program. Now, it was a little bit scary because her intellect was telling her, but hey, this is a major percentage of your business revenue. But her intuition was saying this is the right move. Well, what happened next over the next few months was absolutely astounding. The membership inside her group program almost tripled. It almost tripled because there was so much potency in that offer. And if she would have listened to her fear, to that fear voice that was masking his intellect, she wouldn't have had that much success in the group program. And even though at the time, the small group and the one-on-one offer were delivering most of the income in her business, even though that was true, this move still made way more impact and income. And it took her less time. It was absolutely so cool to watch. It was so inspiring. And all of that was inside her, and all of it is inside you. Now, the Clarity Reset is one of the tools we use inside the Clarity Workshop. And this is a space where you'll stop outsourcing your power to other people and you'll start trusting your own signals, because I'll help you map them so that you know what your clarity feels like. Now, let's talk about the hidden cost of indecision. It's easy to think that we're waiting until we know enough to make a decision. But the truth is, if you're not making a decision, if you're stuck in indecision, that's actually a choice. You are deciding not to decide, and that is a choice. And every time you wait, you defer, you delay because you're afraid of getting it wrong, or you're afraid of making the wrong choice, or you're afraid of consequences for the specific choice. You are also choosing to disallow your intuition to come in. You're choosing to stay invisible. You're choosing to make less impact. You're choosing to hold the idea close to you instead of sharing it and creating the impact that you really want to make. And you're also choosing to say no to more money, more impact, more peace, and more joy in your life. Indecision is extremely expensive. Now, I'm not saying you should rush into decisions. You should absolutely slow down enough that your intuition can come in. But then you have to set a deadline. When will you decide? And the truth is, one of the things that people get really twisted is they think clarity is going to mean certainty. That's not true. Clarity never means certainty. We don't know what the outcome will be of any choice that we make. There are no guarantees in life. There are no guarantees in business. Nothing is going to work 100% of the time. It's a giant experiment. And we have to just give ourselves the grace to remember and know that we're just going to take the next step without insisting that we see the whole path in front of us. We're going to take the next step. And this is exactly what I created the Clarity Workshop for, so that you can get clear on what your next step is, because you are allowed to stop spiraling. You're allowed to want support and also want to trust your own intuition. And you're allowed to choose clarity over perfection, trusting the intuition. And the truth is, you won't totally know what action to take until you take some action. So I talk a lot about her, but my mentor, Marie Forleo, says clarity comes from engagement. And my interpretation of that is clarity comes from action. You can't think your way to clarity, and you can't think your way into intuitive knowing. That requires action and feeling right? Which is why I really love this intuitive knowing framework that I shared with you at the beginning of today, the structure, the movement, and the perceiving, because it's one of the maps you can use to activate your own intuition. So if you have found yourself thinking, gosh, this is exactly what I need, invitation to come join me inside the Clarity Workshop. This is a 90-minute live guided experience where you're going to learn my signature tools for navigating fear versus intuition. You're going to reconnect to your truth in real time, get coached and supported on where you're stuck, and you're going to leave with a really clear idea of what is next for you. What is the next step? And you can save your spot at brendawinkle.com/clarity. Now, in the episode that I did a few weeks ago on stress, I was talking about some of the ways stress responses can manifest in your life. And one of those stress responses that is so common for entrepreneurs and leaders is over consuming. That's actually the flight response at work when you consume and you consume and you consume. And you think that if you just get one more course and one more training and one more workshop, everything will finally be fine. And I want to break that cycle for you. And one of the ways I'm going to do that is for now, for this workshop, I'm not offering it for free. I want to slow you down enough that you can think to yourself, oh, this is exactly what I need. And then when you pay attention. So it's $25 if you register before October 15th. That goes up to $50 on October 16th. And then after October 16th, it goes up to $97 and you'll have access to the replay. Actually, everyone will have access to the replay because this is amazing content. It's so good. It's so good. It's absolutely life-changing content. And I'm not just saying that. And if you decide that you want to have a full reset, I'll also share with you a little bit about the Clarity Retreat, which is coming up in March of 2026. This is for the leader who is ready to stop spinning and start leading from deep alignment. By the time you're done with the Clarity Retreat in March 2026, you're going to have a fully customized offer that you can start selling right away. So it's going to give you that reset into exactly what to do, how, for whom, and when. Thank you so much for listening. I would love to know how this episode landed for you. Do you want to hear more about how to access intuition? Because I only shared with you one of my maps today, the intuitive knowing framework map with the structure, movement, and perception. I have tons of different ways that we can talk about intuition. And I think it's a really great, I think it's a really great way to start having the conversation around clarity. Because when you can access your intuition, you get more clarity. So this is one of about 7 different maps that I have on how to activate your intuition. Let me know if you want to hear more about it. And you'll notice that I'm talking a lot about clarity lately. And that's because I did multiple double-digit interviews with spiritual entrepreneurs, heart-led leaders, intuitive entrepreneurs, and I discovered something. I discovered that there are 2 things that everyone is talking about. One is, I just want clarity. So that's why we've been talking a lot about clarity, how to get it, how to know when it's there. And the second thing was people wanted to create consistent income. And there's a place where you're going to need to get over the bar and really allow yourself to create the income you want to create, because with the income you want to create also comes the impact. It's so essential. And if you're looking for one-on-one support, I am opening my books to inviting just a few one-on-one clients. And so if that feels appealing to you, just DM me on Instagram or go check out my website. There's information there and you can apply. I do only work with coaching clients through application because I want to make sure it's a fit for both of us. So in closing today, I just want you to trust that you already know. You already know what's best for you. You already know. And if you want someone to help amplify that, I would love to support you. in the Clarity Workshop. Thank you so much for listening today. If you loved this episode, would you please go leave a 5-star rating wherever you're listening and review if you're on Apple Podcasts? Just a sentence or two would mean so much. And if you feel like you learned something, like you benefited from this episode, would you please share this episode with someone that you care about? Thank you so much for listening. Bye for now.